We spent like, I think it was, what, 4 hours planning this first.
What's up? Guys, we're here. Welcome to the Clever Creator Podcast with Daniel and Tennyson. We are thrilled to be here, dude.
Oh yeah.
Dude, how long has it taken us to get this started again? Like a week?
Well,
Yeah,
we've had the idea for like a year
Yeah.
between the two of us. But yeah, I think it was, we did it in a week. And I think we set the goal of a week. We were like,
Yeah.
we just don't want to let this drag on.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It went up in a whole week.
Yeah, dude.
But that wasn't with sacrifice. Like
So-
I put in like 6-7 hours planning and
dude,
stuff.
we like crammed our butts to make this happen to you. We crammed to make this podcast happen. We are so excited. Just a quick rundown so you guys know who we are, and then we're excited to know who you are too. So we'll give a little introduction here, and then we'll get going. The topic for today is awesome. I mean, I'm so excited.
I'm way pumped. It has been a topic I've been wanting to just, I shouldn't say blast, but address to people for a long time now.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, it's super applicable to everyone. We'll get into it in a minute. We're going to give a quick introduction. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube or if you're on Spotify, like send us a message, drop a comment below, wherever you're watching this, let us know who you are, where you're from, what you do. And we're so excited to get to know you. We really are.
I know that we'll also have shorts around too. So like we'll have shorts on YouTube,
okay.
Shorts, TikTok, Instagram. Like we'll be around on the major platforms.
Yeah. This is not just us talking. Like we want to hear from you guys, and we'll talk more about that at the end. But
This podcast is for you.
it is for you.
We're doing this for you.
So awesome. Dan, give us a little introduction about yourself.
All right. What is up, everyone? So I am Daniel Hansen. A lot of people just call me Dan for short, aka Dan the Man. That's what I go by.
Dan the Man.
Yep. That's actually the nickname. That's actually not a nickname. That's the name of my business. DTM Films is Dan the Man Films. Yeah. So I've been in the game about a year, maybe 2, depending on how you count it. That's from when I got my camera to when I actually got my first retainer client, right? But I've been around for about a year and a half in the East Idaho area. In that time, I've already managed to get to the point where I'm shooting luxury weddings with you. I just booked my first 5K wedding. It's the highest I've gotten so far. And I've done construction in Boise and Jackson with clients. I'm a professional drone pilot. I fly drones stuff too. Probably my biggest, besides the 5K wedding, probably my biggest like proud moment of my business so far, and sort of my authentic reason of why people should listen to me or us, is I got hired last year, and the thing about this is you have to also remember too, right? Like this city could have just found someone local. They thought I was worth bringing across straight state borders and paying the amount they did.
That's awesome.
Was getting to shoot the 15,000 person event down in Mapleton, Utah last year.
That is a portfolio thing for sure.
Yeah.
Just like Dan, I am a videographer. We kind of went into different circles. So Dan does a lot more like commercial stuff than I do, but I do a lot more wedding stuff. We both do a bit of everything. But I am Tennyson. I'm the owner of Summit and Solace, timeless wedding films, and so I've been doing wedding films for like 5 years now. One of my accomplishments I'm super proud of is I've successfully worked myself into work with some of the best planners. There's one planner next year I get to work with. I landed a 5-figure wedding. Like, dude, I booked a 5-figure wedding.
That's crazy.
Like, we'll talk more about this later. I don't like to brag too much, but I'm excited. Like 5 years ago, I would never have known like I could even get to this point, right? So just incredible.
And what creator? And this is not to bash on you guys or anyone, but like, who else have you heard in this area that's booking a 5K wedding, a 5-figure wedding?
And we're in Southeast Idaho, guys. So like, there's nothing in Southeast Idaho. There's for those of you who are here, you'll know the area, but a lot of our listeners don't know where this is. Do some research. We are in the middle of nowhere. We're outnumbered by like cattle on this side of the state, and just Idaho in general. Actually, for every person, we are outnumbered by 7,000 potatoes.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
7,000 potatoes to one person.
I think that probably the only people that know us is like everyone that does the fries at Five Guys.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, no, I'm thrilled. Wedding films and I mean DTM films. We're so excited. And we're not just talking to videographers today. We're talking to people who are creatives who want to get started, right? So if you're in that range where you're either early in your career, you're trying to figure out how to get started, or maybe you've started and you're having some tough moments, you're just trying to push through. you're in the right place.
Or you just like to listen to others around you that are about your level and say, what are some golden nuggets that they've come up with that I haven't?
So, yeah. And this podcast will be heavily driven by you guys. So, seriously, if there's something you want us to talk about, drop us a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shoot us a message.
The more engagement, the better, because then we know what you guys want to hear. We've already spent like 4 hours doing like a 10-episode planning session.
Yeah.
And we got more in the chamber. But we want to know, what do you want to hear? Because if you're like, hey, we really want to hear this, this, and this first, we will go back and rearrange that schedule. Again, this whole podcast is for you guys. So you tell us what you want to hear and learn from us.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Today is our first episode, and we are talking about, I think, one of the biggest topics out there for creatives, right? And we kind of narrowed it down to a few different specific things, right?
Yeah.
So today we are talking about the 7 ways creators fail before they even get started. Huge topic.
We got so many more than 7.
Dude, but it took us forever to narrow this down, guys. We was on like a 2-hour Zoom call, just narrowing down what the biggest 7 were. And based on experience, based on what we know about people who reached out to us, because we've had lots of people reach out to us, and just understanding what the biggest reasons were.
Well, and I think the cool thing is most of these are applicable to about anyone globally. We did have 1 or 2 where kind of like, this is a little more specific or exclusive to our area. But these can apply, like I said, depending on, it doesn't matter where you're listening or who you are. This can apply to anyone, anywhere. Yeah. These are the ones right now that we're seeing in the industry.
Yeah. And to clarify who we're talking to, like Dan and I are videographers by trade, but we are not just talking to videographers. We're talking to videographers, photographers, streamers, content creators,
business owners who just want to learn about the content creation industry and get connected with content creators.
Yeah. I mean, whether you're an artist, like a designer, or you're a business owner, or you're a videographer, it doesn't matter. Our goal is to get your business to a better place or off the ground. So let's dive in, man. What's number 1?
Dude, number 1. Okay. I do want to give a little bit of a tag or shout out to this. Because we got this from Parker Walbeck's video, but I also think it's one that we came up with ourselves. And that is, people start without a vision or a plan. They don't have a specific vision or plan in mind.
Yeah. So that's huge. Okay. If you're going to start a business, and again, creative or whatever, if you don't have a vision and a plan, don't even bother.
and can I clarify that for a second for some people?
Yeah.
So when we say vision and plan, because people might be like, well, isn't that the same thing? I'm like, no, it's not. I like to think of the vision as the dream that's your overall dream. So let me just share mine, for example. I'm trying to become the Devin Supertramp and Parker Walbeck of my area, East Idaho. So that's my vision. My plan is, how am I going to get there? What steps, right? So I'm in videography. I'm doing weddings. I'm doing this. But I'm also working on socials. I'm working on creating systems for my business. Like, it's the how to get to the vision.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I can have a vision to be a millionaire. But if I have no plan to get there, I will never get there unless I win the lottery. And even then, that's a plan. If I go to the lottery, I'm like,
well, you're also
this is how I'm going to get there.
The taxes after, anyways.
Yeah, it's don't play the lottery, folks. All right. Yeah. So I think when it comes to like setting your vision, that's easy. I think just decide what you want. So if you're starting out as a photographer, like, lay it out. What in 5 years, where do you want to be? Is this just like a side hustle for you? Because it can be. Or do you want this to be like your source of income? Do you want it to be like your main thing? There's a difference. And if you're like, oh, we'll just see where it goes, like, you're going to fizzle after a while.
Well, it's just not going to happen, really. Because I was like that at one point, where I was kind of like, I want to see how far I can go with this. It's the same thing. How far I can go, or we'll dabble. And it wasn't until I finally said, you know what? I want to be the next Parker and Devin in my area. I want to be Devin. I want to go for it. When I made that commitment, the cool thing about this, and there are studies, and I didn't have time to look them up and everything, but there are actual studies that when you actually commit to something like that and you write it down, instead of seeing things as it's impossible to get there, it's impossible to win the lottery, it's impossible to be Devin, your brain actually rewrites itself and starts to show you, no, instead of thinking this is just not possible, it starts looking for, how can I make this possible? And you start seeing opportunities pop up and start being like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and that opens you up. Yeah, because that gives you kind of a clarity of mind.
Yeah.
More than anything else, which is huge.
Yeah.
We could do a whole up podcast. Maybe we will. Let us know if you want mindset. I'm not even going to ask you. We're going to do it anyways. Awesome. Okay. Number two. So number two is not having a mentor. And I would specify that as you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you enter an industry, there's going to be a huge list of things that you don't know about the industry yet, despite your research, because you haven't experienced it yet, right? So that's where the mentor comes in. If you're just starting based on YouTube videos, or like you're learning your craft based on whatever.
You beat me to it. I was going to be devil's advocate.
Okay, YouTube University has a place and a time, but don't use it as your main source of mentorship.
Well, the other problem is there's so much. We're in the age of not just information, but we talk about disinformation and stuff now too. We're at the point where there are so many different people trying to teach you how to do it on YouTube that, let's be honest, some of them aren't really. And I think this is also why we've taken a year before we've actually done this podcast, is we now kind of realize back then when we wanted to, we were still at a point where I don't know if I would trust myself. And now I'm like, we have the portfolio, we have the experience, we have the thing to say, this is why you should actually listen to us. But with YouTube, it's like you could have 20 people you're watching and 15 of them are actually faking it and not actually at that level.
And even if they're not faking it too, like a big thing is that there's just different varieties. Like someone will say, oh, you have to do this. Another person will say, no, that's not the way you do it. And so having someone and picking it, when you pick a mentor, you need to pick someone who you look up to. So for me in the wedding world, I really, really admire people like Jake Weisler, Nate Tehan, 31 Films, Ray Roman, Emma K Films. I mean, these people are like just phenomenal, and I love their styles. They're all a little bit different, but I almost obsess a little bit over what they produce. When then something comes out, I'll watch it like 5 or 6 times. Like when they put some new content out, just to get it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's you want to choose someone who you align with. If I chose someone that I didn't align with, you're gonna you know.
Yeah. Well, and I like that, and to just go with the points we got written in here, like I said, you need to know who the industry leaders are.
Yeah.
And that's where YouTube comes back into play. When you know who your leaders are and you know who to watch, then you can go back to YouTube and say, yeah, I'm going to bit. So, like, that's what I do. I love Parker Wahlbeck. That's my guy, right? And the same with Devin Supertramp. Then, like you said, I'm with Jake Weiser, Nate Tehan as well for Runaway Vows for weddings. I do Matt Johnson for weddings. I do Alex Moff for weddings, right? But so I know those guys, and then I go watch it. But I know Matty Apoya, Peter McKinnon. I know the industries for photo, video, and weddings. And then I go back and I will binge watch their channels. Not to give myself a shout out, but between Devin and Parker's websites, if we could have access to their analytics, you could probably go back and have them be like, "What's this 5% from DTM?
What is this one guy
just watched the whole channel 5 times?" Yeah, like that's me, guys.
Yeah, and that's the fun part about you. Like YouTube, especially too. If everyone's on YouTube or at least Instagram, right? Like.
Which you should be. We'll get to the reasons.
If you're we're talking, content or like creators here, the people who you're looking up to need to be present, right?
Yeah.
Which we'll do another episode on that. But and the biggest thing I would say with the mentorship is it shortens your learning curve, right? You can learn your craft just from YouTube University.
Oh yeah.
But if you have someone who and especially if you can be in contact with them, right? Not just like idolizing one person, but find someone in your area that you can relate to and that is willing to talk to you about what they do.
And genuine contact.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you want something out of them. Be like an actual friend.
Yeah. And you're going to supercharge your experience. Like your learning is going to, what would have taken you 5 years is only going to take you 2. I mean, it depends on what you do, but.
Right. Well, and can I make a plug there real quick?
Sure.
So 2 plugs real fast. That's also how I even got to where I am, guys, is a lot of people have asked me, like, how'd you get to where you are? What'd you start? The whole reason I'm actually here is because of you. It's because of Tennyson. Because I reached out to him. I took the initiative. I had the nerve. I reached out to him and was like, I'm just trying to start. Can I shout you, right? And I shouted, what was it? I think 3 weddings for you for free.
It was at least 2.
At least 2, maybe.
It might have been 3.
Yeah. And then you didn't use me for a year, and that's fine because I was crap.
It was getting good. It's had to take time to go get good.
Yeah, time to get good. Yeah. But you occasionally kept in contact. I kept in contact. I asked you questions like, how's my white balance? How's this? Etc. Right? And then like a year later, you called me out of blue and was like, hey, I'm doing this wedding in Jackson. I want to see if you want to come do this with me. I was like, heck yeah, it's in Jackson. Yeah. And then I was nervous as heck, but apparently it's good enough. You brought me back. Now you snuck me into the Jackson market. So that's where I give you credit. People are like, oh, you got into Jackson. I was like, no, Tennyson went the long way into Jackson. I got brought into the Jackson market.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the area, I know a lot of you will be, but Jackson Hole, Wyoming. If you don't know where that is, go look it up. Yeah, Western Wyoming's right next door, and that's like where the big weddings happen for us without having to travel too far. That's where for me as a wedding videographer, that's where I'm going, right, to get my money.
Can I make one more plug now too?
Yeah.
So the other plug I want to make here for doing the mentor is I want to do this part directly to the BYU Idaho students, where I'm saying, yeah, and you can cut this part out if you want. But this is where I'm talking about a mentor. Is we're here to try and help level up this area as well. That's why we're doing this podcast. And so I actually have with the school an official internship with BYU Idaho. And I'm trying to get students to join my team and say, look, whether we're just going out making stupid videos for my YouTube channel, or we're doing or we're doing weddings, or I'm doing a paid gig, or like just the other day I did the Teton Dam Marathon and brought some people on, right? You need to get out of the safety net of the classroom, but still have the ability that if you mess up, it's not on you. And that's where the mentors come in.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to use your stuff if it's crap. But if it's good, now you have network, now you have experience, now you have portfolio work, and you can say, well, they didn't pay me. I was like, yeah, but you got 4 or 5 trade-offs out of that.
We'll actually talk more about the not paying thing later too, because it's crazy.
But get a mentor.
Yeah, get a mentor.
Sweet. All right, so this next part I'm super stoked for too. I think this also is something that the students, but also if you're just starting out, you need to hear. It's a little bit of a cold hard truth, but it's very important. And that is not putting in the work. You need to put in the 10,000 hours.
It's crazy. Like, especially when we're talking like creative stuff here, right? If you guys don't know about the 10,000 hour rule, go look it up. But the rule is if you want to become a master of something, you got to put in 10,000 hours. That comes from a specific study. Maybe we'll link it. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll link it.
They can Google it.
Yeah, Google 10,000 hours to get really, really like expert at it, right? If you're not willing to put in the work to either start your business or learn your craft, I promise you are not going anywhere. You don't need to get to 10,000 hours, but you need to put in the work.
Well, you also need to understand what the photo, video, or just content creation industry is anyways. At its heart, it's a service-based business. And so, again, it's not like this is you going and you're getting your morning coffee or donut or whatever, right? Like, you're not getting an instant reward for people. Like, people are taking a risk on you. So if you're going to have people pay you for your work, you better have put in time to get to at least a certain level of quality and consistency. And like, you got to put in the hours.
Yeah. So like I have people who want to come out and work with me frequently. And I ask them, I'm like, hey, do you have some work to show me? Like, have you done a wedding before? And many times they do, right? But I've had recent people who are like, no, I haven't done anything yet. And I'm like, props to you for like going and asking and trying to make it happen. But go make it happen. It's not that hard. That's a little bit controversial, but
especially if they're going to bake for money right away.
Yeah.
I've had students, and I love students. I'm not trying to bash on you students, but I have had BYU students do the same thing when they reach out. They want to get paid right away, but they don't even have a single picture on their portfolio. They're like, I do some stuff for class. Do you have it? Oh, I got rid of it because I'm not doing class anymore. Oh, I'm not going to pay you $400 to come do a wedding for me. I don't know what you could do.
If you're a photographer, take some pictures. Go out and grab someone for free. If you're a videographer, go out and do whatever for go shoot a commercial client for free.
Or go make 5 30-second travel chips. Go around your town and make travel videos for 30 seconds.
Yeah, or go find someone who's, willing to take you on as a second shooter. Sometimes I say no. Sometimes other people, worst they can say is no, right? But do the work.
And you need to recognize you're not going to be paid at the front.
Yeah.
I know this is where I do want to get specific a little bit. If you are just starting out, it's just how the nature of this industry goes. You're not going to get paid right away. You have to provide value first. Particularly for you and I, we're actual business owners. If I take a chance on you and I hire you to come, second shoot a wedding for me, or like the other day, I'm doing the Teton Dam Marathon and I put it up overnight and got 2 people to come help. I told them it's not paid because I was like, I want to see what you can do. And I was planning to be disappointed. I got shocked when I got the results. They were amazing, but that's not happened very often. And so you need to understand that you're going to start. And when some people are like, well, how many? They're like 5, 10. I'm like, no, you're going to be making 40, 50 videos, 40, 50 photos. Like, you got to put in at least 3 or 4 weeks worth of time probably to have somewhat of a portfolio. And
this is, again, we're speaking we're videographers, so we think like this, but Dan and I have different thoughts on this too. Cause he actually brings on interns. And so it's an unpaid internship, right? For me, I'm at a point where I don't not pay the people who come to work with me. But if someone reaches out to me like, hey, can I come help you? Can I come be an assistant at your wedding? I don't expect to be paid. I'll do it for free. Like, just I'll deliver. Like, you're adding value to me. This is a classic thing. Like, add value and value will be returned to you, right? I'm not saying you can't do everything for free, right? But when it comes to building your portfolio, sometimes you get paid while in the building process. Sometimes you'll get paid, sometimes you won't. But don't come out the gate being like, okay, I know the stuff, now I'm ready to get paid. No, get some stuff under your belt. If you're a florist, some creative industries, like you have some cost, like you have to charge at least your cost, but don't expect to make money your first few times. If you can, great, but don't expect it,
Well, the big guys didn't either. If we can take a moment to go back to know your leaders in the industry, and let me take us back and do the history of these guys. Again, I've watched their whole channels like 100 times. I know their whole backstory. Okay. All right. Devin, let's go back to Devin for a second, actually, right? Devin talks about how when he started at BYU, Devin applied for the BYU film department, whatever, right? And he tried to get in. They didn't take him the first time. So what did he say he did? He said he went around and started volunteering on everyone's set.
Yeah.
Hundreds of students. And it doesn't matter if he got to direct, if he was cameraman, if he was the coffee runner, if he was a light guy or grip, like he just went on everyone's set and did it for semesters worth, right? And then came back, applied, and then got into the BYU thing. Parker Walbeck, right, who eventually gets hired by Devin. When he started with Devin, he did 3 months of full-time hours on top of going to school for free work. Shooting and editing 40 hours on top of being a full-time student. So dude wasn't even sleeping.
Yeah, no.
And it was 3 months before Devin finally said, you're worth it, let me bring you on. And now he's a millionaire.
And in the creative industry, that's what it takes. I mean...
Well, that's what I did with you.
Yeah, like I still paid you for like the first time you came out, just because that's how I am. I'm like, I pay, but like, Dan was ready to do it for free. And again, I'm not preaching that you need to do everything for free, but I am saying value follows value. Okay, if you give value, you will get it back. You may not get it in cash
right away,
but if you do it the right way, you'll get something back from it. So
I love we're both together. So, I love how Parker says in his business. We should link it. The one I sent you down below. Yeah, the top 10.
Sounds good.
We'll put the link to the video down below so you guys watch Parker's video, at least on YouTube. We'll probably see if we can do it on Instagram. But I love in his video where he talks about we all need money. We all know that. We all know that. And we know we're all hurting. But again, we're a service-based industry. And so Parker says in his video about like the 10 mistakes that beginner entrepreneurs and businesses make is you put the money first before value or relationships. So putting value and relationships first, and money will come quicker than you expect.
Yes. And it may not even be money. I mean, maybe just connections, or it could be incredible portfolio pieces. Like just put in the work, do the work. Shut up and do it. Quit being lazy.
Well, that's how I got Mapleton. The whole reason I got to shoot for the Mapleton, Utah city was because I worked for free or at a very, very poor rate of worker. Like when I worked for the city, I worked with someone who was sort of like their social media manager kind of person over there. And she eventually quit working for the city of Rexburg and then got hired by the city of Mapleton, Utah. So when they were like, we need someone to do video for this event, she was like, dude, I know a guy up in Idaho. And she was like, I know he's in Idaho, but he's worth bringing down. Yeah. It was because of that network and that relationship.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to number 4. Poor time management. Another big one. Again, there's so many things that will tank a business or creative than not managing your time correctly or efficiently. It'll burn you out and it'll cause you to lose your passion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get the burnout, and some people are like, well, you burn out and you stop. I'm like, no, I've had burnout a couple times, actually. I feel like it's waves. And it's really hard every time you hit burnout. It's really hard to say, I want to get out of this. There's always that thought of, I just go back to 9 to 5. It's easier.
Yeah, and that's a constant thing, too. So if you're trying to do a creative thing, whether you're a photographer, videographer, content creator, planner, designer, whatever, if you want to do it full time, then you really, really need to pay attention to how you spend your time, because you're going to have a lot of tasks. Even if you're part-time, you still have a lot of tasks. You need to be very careful about like dividing your time between your job or your other job or your family or whatever, if you're just part-time. But like that, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to
Well,
say.
and it's cool to be your own boss, but by being your own boss, it also means you have no one over your shoulder. So
Yeah.
if you aren't managing the time and you aren't managing your projects and stuff, you will crumble too.
Yeah.
You do kind of have to sort of, without having to sort of kind of split your personality in a sense and sort of say, I have my normal self and I have my boss self that whips my normal self
Yep.
into action. or an alternative is you do someone like maybe you and I, where you have the mentor and have the mentor hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And check in with you.
And some mentors are willing to do that, right? But at the core, I would say the core of the issue here is you need to know how to spend your time. And here's an example of poor time management, right? Yeah. So someone starts out, they're a photographer, they buy their gear, they learn their craft, and now they're starting to get some actual bookings for like sessions and things, right?
Good for you.
First of all, congrats. That is a hard step to get past. Now you have the time management problem of a lot of people are going to have families. Either you have a family or you have a part-time job because you're probably not making sustainable income to be full-time to begin with.
Or a curveball happens,
or something happens, like something crazy happens. Now you have to manage your time. So here's an example. You have, let's say in a month, you have like 7 sessions or something like that, right? 7 different sessions. Maybe one's like a small wedding. Maybe you got a couple family sessions and like a senior session. And you're not hiring out an editor yet because you're not charging that much yet or whatever. Well, that's a whole conversation. You're going to have to take the time to do all those things. So if you decide to just do the edit, if editing takes up 80% of your business, like of the time that you have set aside for your business, the last 20%, you don't have time to run your business, market, advertise, or any of those things, which we'll talk more about later. But you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out quick because you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and you're not doing the other things that need to get done.
The definition of stupid is doing the exact same thing over again and expecting a different result.
Yes.
I get told that all the time.
And so fixing a problem like that would be like, okay, maybe we need to start charging more, and then maybe we need to have an editor. I know it's easier said than done, but find a way to distribute that labor that needs to be done, you know? Or another example too would be like if you're a videographer, you are tied up with marketing and you spend your whole, or your everything when you begin. You spend your whole day building websites. Like you just like trying to build your website. You get obsessed with it.
Delegate.
Good thing to be obsessed with for a little while. But then your edits fall behind and then you start feeling pressure. And especially if you're a family man like me, I've got a wife and 2 kids. Like I don't have time to edit in the evening. My wife and my kids, like they expect me to be there. And if I spent all my day doing one thing and I needed to be dividing it, like that is a problem.
And take it from the guy who's single without a family, and I had or sort of have an editor or had one. Now I'm kind of distributing it among the students. I'm still in the editing room more than I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to get out and you got to do this stuff. So this is where I think we also I want to address as sort of a transition here, the mentality that goes with poor time management too. When I get overwhelmed like that, I tend to think, well, if I stay up to 12 or 1 a.m., I'll get the work done. I'll catch up. I'll get it there. It won't, because you'll get it done for maybe the first night or 2, but then 3 or 4 nights later, your body's going to just stock up on undersleep, and you're going to think slower, think worse. Your finding is not as creative of an edit, and it actually is to your advantage to just say, I'm hard cutting, and 8 or 9 o'clock I stop. We're going to go watch my movie or play Minecraft or whatever you're doing. And then I'm going to get up 9 o'clock. I start editing, and you book that time.
Yeah. And this is really hard, guys. So like, especially when you're starting out, you're trying to make money, you're trying to make all the business facets work. And you have, especially if you have something going on, like a day job or something, like, and then you have a family, like time gets crazy, right? And you cannot work. There's too many of you guys are working until like midnight or 1. And there's a time and a place for that. But if you think you can continue that forever, you are wrong. Unless you are like a night owl that's just committed to being up every night and sleeping in the day, you're never, ever going to succeed that way.
And you can't just think, I'll just get an editor and have that be the solution. There's a good chance that might be, but I just did that. I've had an editor for 6 months now, and she's good, and I love her.
Yeah.
But it's drained me financially quicker than I expected. I was like, I got to drop her again. And so now the workload goes back to me, and I have to try and get it out somehow.
Yeah. And that just being a business owner, especially early on, you're in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Right. You're in charge, whether you send it out to other people or not, you're in charge of it. It stresses you out. So here's my suggestion for you guys. With poor time management, because it's going to happen eventually, especially if this is the first business or first thing you've done, is actually write down when you plan to do things. You're not going to follow it perfectly, but you would much rather fail at your schedule than not having a schedule, right? If you set a schedule and you don't follow it perfectly, you're still going to be in a better place than if you never set one and just do things chaotically.
Well, and there's a handful of studies that actually show if you write down your goals or you write down your schedule, you're like 85% more likely to get it done.
It also helps you give an overview. Like, okay, you can see, you just write down everything that needs to get done. And then you can see what all you have to do. And we don't accidentally neglect something like, oh shoot, I forgot to send this to the client.
Or you can find out it's something you shouldn't be doing, right? If you look back and say, okay, by the end of this week, I'm supposed to have 10 videos, and you're like, I only have 3. Well, what happened? Well, I played Minecraft for 6 hours on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, right?
Well, that's where your time went. Delete your video games.
Or set aside and just say, like Saturdays, I'll play video games the whole day, but I won't the rest of the week. Anyways, but let me get us back on track for a second here and go to the next point with this then, where if you're going to set schedules and times and all that there, the best way, particularly when you're starting out, is to do what's called batch work.
Yeah.
It's so much easier than trying to be, particularly like if you're doing kind of what you're supposed to and you're doing the planning and scheduling, you're like, oh yeah, I've got 100 episodes figured out. You can't do all 100 in one day, and if you only do one a day, you're never going to get them done. So
doing things in like batch sessions is just doing the activity and doing as much of it as you can in a certain time, right? So you have multiple things. Like if you have a lot of tasks on your website to do, don't do like one thing and then walk away. I mean, if inspiration hits, I guess that's fine, but don't make that the norm. Go through say, okay, on Saturday from this time to this time, I'm going to work on all the things I have to do on my website. Focus on activity. Like do what you can to hyper focus your sessions on individual things. Because that's going to work so much better than just sporadically doing whatever you have to do in your business.
Totally.
So, okay, guys, number 5 is bad business management. Kind of like poor time management, but business management. What is up with this? Why is this so important?
Well, I think this is huge because particularly coming from someone who's a year or two behind you on business, right? I'm just now trying to figure out and starting to figure out a couple things with my business. But I think I'm struggling where I am in my business financially and production-wise and other things because there are certain foundational business management issues I didn't set up. But that's because I didn't know. I didn't know what I should be setting up. I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it was sticking. So something like, I think a big one is finances. Know your numbers.
Finances. If you don't know what is happening to your money, you're going to lose it. Period. You're going to lose your money.
well, not even just like money, like definitely finances, but just I like how we put in the notes, know the numbers too. So know your finances, but know your time management, how much time you're spending, know how many people you have, potentially clients, how many active current clients, like know your numbers. You can't quantify. You can't grow if you can't quantify it.
Yeah, and I think the principle is here if you don't quantify, you're not going to keep it around. If you don't quantify your clients, you don't quantify your time, money, whatever, it's going to fall to pieces.
You have no responsibility.
You have no responsibility. You have nothing keeping you grounded to what's actually happening. All it just kind of gets lofty in your head. And this, I say finances because this happens a lot with finances in particular.
Well, of course.
Let's say you get a gig or whatever you're doing, like you get a $5,000 gig, especially when you're early on, that's usually pretty big, right? Oh, yeah. Whatever you're doing, that's pretty big. And so you're thinking, wow, I got $5,000. You're like, I'm going to take some of this for myself and go buy myself a new thing. And guess what? That money's gone before you even get it.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And then you're like, you didn't even calculate your overhead costs. Like everyone has overhead costs. And overhead costs being things like that just continually hit you whether or not you do business.
Your subscription for the editing software, your music licensing software.
Yeah, or whatever it is that
paying for the editor.
Yeah, subscriptions, other people, contractors,
just also updating your gear or repairing gear. Like there's tons of overhead you have to deal with. Things
that hit you regardless of whether or not you actually do business. Or you have your direct costs that happen like for a videographer, like I have to pay for travel, like fuel to get there. Usually, occasionally I'll rent a piece of gear for something.
You don't sleep in the car?
I used to. But know what your numbers are, and we'll be providing. Dan and I are really excited about this. We're going to provide you with some resources pretty soon here. We're going to hook you up with some sweet discounts. They're still in the works, but I promise you guys will hear about it first, and you guys will get the best discounts on our quantification tools.
Yeah, and we're gonna have like templates and stuff too.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We're gonna hook you guys up the best we can here. So, but yeah, I mean, network. More than just finances. You're right. More than just finances. You got learning how to market.
Oh, dude.
Lead us away, preach, Dad.
This is where I'm struggling right now. I'm trying to get working on batch recording everything right now. So marketing, I feel like, is another big. So here's the problem, and this is what I did at the beginning. And again, this is why some people might say, "Well, why should I listen to you when you're saying you have these problems?" I'm like, because I'm fixing them now. I'm actually now getting to that point. So I can tell you what I'm doing. But I can also say I've been in the trench with you on this. And a problem is, starting out, we want to do that shotgun approach where we want to be on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MySpace, blog.
I mean, who's on MySpace?
I know, right? Well, my thing is like, it's still around.
Is it still around? I thought it shut down.
But then you're like, oh, I got to be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, I Love Radio. You're like, I got to be on 15 different platforms. Yeah. I was like, dude, trying to make just one platform work, maybe two, is tons of hours of work. You cannot be on 15 unless you have like a 50-person team, right? Yeah. We even making this podcast know right now that we have you and I, we have a couple of people behind us to help. Yeah. But I'm already anticipating, like, we're not going to be on TikTok right away. I might post a few, but it's going to sit there and be dormant. Yeah. We got one or two we're focusing on. Focus
on what you do. So I think a lot of our people who are starting up businesses and creatives, and this is just business in general, whether or not you're creative, is scary. Marketing is scary. Because it's a big beast, right? You got like SEO and social media and networking, like influencers. You got all these things, and focus on what you need. And it'll depend. You need to do the research, right? So depending on what field you're in, there might be different benefits to each one. For me, as a wedding videographer, I started that pretty early on. Networking was far more important. Like the marketing side of networking was much, much more important than SEO. But to someone else who's doing like real estate photography or something, SEO might be better. You know? I mean, networking is going to be important there too, but like,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's gonna don't worry about all of it. Just learn what you think is going to work best for you in the beginning. Do your research.
Right, and I want to clarify on research too. Like you said, this is where you, and I don't want to contradict ourselves, but this is where maybe you do, like, this is where you do the free work. This is where, when you're still doing free work, right? You're still shadowing or just building your own portfolio, going out every weekend and doing your own thing. This is where you upload your first 20, 30, 40 photos to wherever, to YouTube and to Instagram and to TikTok, and find which ones are getting the most views, the most traction. Yeah. Then you can kind of, once you have doing that, your data then tells you, okay, like for example, that's how I recognize that, at least for me, like non-wedding stuff, all my commercial and everything else, Instagram is for some reason still the big thing in this East Idaho region. It's not YouTube. It's not Facebook, which I thought it'd be Facebook. It's Instagram. So that's why I'm putting emphasis on the Instagram, because we've done that research. Yeah, and again, be willing to pivot. If you try something, try a few different things. Don't try just one thing, but like try a couple things. And if your marketing on a certain platform isn't going the way you want, figure out why it's not happening. But if it is going away on another platform, shift. Like, especially early on, you don't have to do it all. Pick the, like, you shouldn't be doing it all. You shouldn't be doing it all, but focus on what's working. Yeah. Yeah. Do like 3 weeks or a month on YouTube, 3 weeks or a month on Instagram, 2-3 weeks on TikTok, and just then go back and look one and say, this was the one that got the most. I'm going to focus on that platform. Yeah. And try to figure out, why did that one do well? You know, there's so many reasons why we can talk about why it does well. And we'll get into analytics and that stuff later. But don't be too scared of marketing, guys. Yeah. It is a beast, but it is definitely doable. And it is much, much more doable than you probably think. I do want to use one more thing on that too. Is the quote that I think all the YouTubers say, and I found it's very true. And I'm one of those people that hate when they're like, everybody says it. But this one is true. And I don't want to just, they say it about YouTube, but I think it's the same with principle of marketing. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. It is a snowball that will roll down. You just have to start doing it. Just start posting, and it will start to roll and get momentum by itself. If you expect to be perfect right away, and you expect to get results right away, and don't post more than twice, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So that's marketing. It's a whole thing. We'll bring someone in. We'll bring someone in who like really knows their marketing, because Dan and I aren't experts on almost anything, to be honest. We're really good at what we do. I know all. I'm just kidding. But we're gonna bring in some people who know their stuff. But
I want to touch on one more part of poor business management, and then we'll move on here. But it is expenses. Kind of falls into the finance thing, right? But I want to mention this one specifically because when you're starting out or when you're early, when you haven't even started your business yet, you're going to have expenses. And it's going to vary. If you're a photographer, obviously you have to have a camera and batteries and SD cards. If you're a florist, you're going to have to have the material to actually put the flowers together and present them. And your material costs for that too. It varies a lot. My point, don't go down a rabbit hole. You don't need all the fancy gear. You don't need it. Do you buy the necessaries? If you're a photographer, you have to have a camera.
Notice he's like deadlocking eye with me as he says this.
You don't need the 600 millimeter lens. I promise you don't. Unless you're specifically
shiny.
It's shiny. Ooh, shiny syndrome is real, guys. Do not do it. It will tank you, and you'll be paying off that debt or whatever for years.
And I want to testify that because that's exactly what testify. I want to confirm that. That's exactly my story. And we'll get that in another episode.
Yeah.
But I made that mistake of having done the first few weddings with Tennyson and seeing where he was. I was like, oh, I want to match him right away. I'm going to beat him on this. I'm going to be faster than he is. And so I, on my very first wedding on my own, got a $4,000 loan from my dad, which I'm still paying off, by the way, despite the pricing that I get.
And Dan's had some great success.
Yeah.
And it's still following him around because he did it early on.
Because I bought 3 tripods, I rented 2 extra cameras. I went down that rabbit hole. And now I'm like, if I hadn't have done that, I would be so positive right now in my bank account.
Yeah. And I made the same mistake too, a little bit differently than you did, but like I did it in like workshops and like things like things that are good and justifiable by like, oh, well, I'll make my money back. Yes, you will if you do it right. But if you keep saying, oh, I'll make my money back, I'll make my money with every purchase, you got a lot of money to make back now. and you better be able to, if you're going to buy something, make sure you can actually make serious money with it.
Yeah, I love
serious money.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out to my dad here. He tells me this all the time, but could help me out with my finances because he does get access to him because I owe him and we want to watch. He tells me all the time, you need to learn the difference between wants and needs and what an actual need is. Yes. There are times where they kind of cross over a little bit here and there. Yeah. But you need to know what's an actual difference between an actual need and just an actual want. Yes. Right? You want a Netflix subscription. You don't really need that. A Creative Cloud, Adobe prescription, depending on what you're doing, could become a need. Yeah. But please do not fall down that rabbit hole. Okay, moving on. Yeah. That was point number 5 out of 7. What is number 6, Dan? Number 6. This is something I am very passionate about because I've done this as well, and I feel like a lot of people do this. You get stuck in what we call analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis. This should be a familiar term. If it's not, let me enlighten you. If you start something new, there's something in your mind that tells you that there's danger or risk and that there's a possibility of failure. And then you continue to think about that. And instead of acting, you decide to continue doing your research so that you can avoid all possible failures. Or you decide to continue working on the back end before actually doing anything. This is a problem. If for a number of reasons, but this is a big problem because if you never pull the trigger, if you're always researching and learning and like doing stuff behind, like not actually producing, you're never going to start. Right. And that even if you do start, you're never going to make the needed decisions to run a business. Right. And this is why, if I may, I'd like to introduce a quote that I really like the way I came up with this. I like to tell myself, don't aim for perfect, just aim for posted. That's that simple. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where I love what Mr. B says. He's got a video where he mentions he's like, well, people ask me all the time what I can do better for this. So he's like, go make 100 videos first. Make your first bad 100 videos and then we'll talk. Yeah. Why? Because the idea is you have things like the 80-20 rule. It's interesting enough. Some people are now calling it the 95-5 rule, but I'm going to stick with the 80-20 rule. Where it's just like, look, you need to understand that your first 100 videos are going to suck. They're going to suck. Or your first 100 flower pieces or your designs or whatever. Or photos. Yeah. And so the idea is you just need to get done to the point where it's 80% perfect. But the idea is by the time you've made 100 bad videos, you will go back and if you've done the 80-20 rule where you make each one 80% perfect, and then try and improve 20% on the next, where you try and improve your white balance or your descriptions or a thumbnail or whatever. Then you'll look back and think, oh, that first video that you thought was perfect, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is trash. I want to delete this off the account.
And that goes for client experience too, not just like technical stuff too. Like, I mean, if you're like a wedding planner, for instance, like experience, like that's a big part of that. It's a big part of almost any creative process, but especially when you're around people, 20% better the next time. Like, hey, this couple I could feel the lag or the awkwardness in this section. So next time we're going to improve 20%. It was much better than improving 100%, but never pulling the trigger.
Or taking 6 months to pull one video.
Forever to do what you need to do. And that's, again, analysis paralysis. Overthinking kills. It kills so many businesses. Before they even start, they never get started because they overthink it.
Now, that doesn't mean to just make crap and throw it out there.
Like, actually make your decision. Like, don't just run around and just aim and shoot.
But we are in an age of, Disney and Mr. Beastified, where it's like it has to be perfect, or the Prince Charming from the very beginning. And it's like, no, you have enough information out there now to be able to make like a decent setup like we've got here. You and I were talking before we set up this podcast. There are some things we'd like to change about this in the next couple episodes. But we were like, we're just going to get it done, get the information out there to help benefit people, and we will upgrade in the future.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that there's this perfection is a myth, where it's just sort of, it's not real.
Yes. And to expound upon that a little bit, like perfection, you will never achieve perfection. Anyone who thinks they've achieved perfection isn't there. Because if anything, they're falling behind. If you talk, and Danny actually mentioned this the other day too, but it's like millionaires will think they've made it. Billionaires don't. And that really is the difference. Like knowing that you're always going to have improvements. There's always things you can improve on. You're never going to have 100% made it. That's what's going to make you push through.
Well, and to go with us, for an example, right, to kind of do our little ladder of authority, right? You and I look up to Parker and Jake Weisler and these guys, and I talk to them. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys have made it. You're working with Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. Your client is McDonald's and DGI.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but my white balance could have been better. I was like, what do you mean?
Sometimes it's not technical. Sometimes like we'll link to these profiles, okay? But like someone I look up to, Jake Weisler, Nate Tehan, like their work is incredible, right? They still talk about things that they improve on. They're like, hey, yeah, well, you know what? Our experience for this was need to be a little bit better here. Like, and they're doing wonderfully well.
Oh yeah,
right? They're phenomenal, right? But even they believe that they're still improving. To me, they've reached perfection, but they really haven't, right? To their eyes, and you'll never reach perfection. So, moral of the story: we'll do a whole episode on this, but do not let
just start.
Just start. Don't get held up. Like. Just do it, and you'll fail.
Make your dreams come true.
And you're gonna fail while doing it.
Well, failure leads to success, and that's that. And I think I'm actually a great example of that. Like I said, I've had 3 or 4. We've had some of these, but I feel like I've failed a lot more than you have.
I don't know. I failed a lot.
Right, but we have fixed those as quickly as we can with help of mentors and all those other things we're speaking of, and we're now starting to make it.
We're where we are because we failed so much.
Yeah.
Like I have failed spectacularly in so many ways, and I am where I am because of that, because I've learned. If you don't fail, you don't learn.
And there is a certain point where too much failure, you need to pull out, and we'll talk about this in a future episode. Tennyson, I know you love this one.
I'm so excited.
What is the final point?
Okay, guys. Number 7 is ego. Okay, it is okay to be confident and proud of your work. When that affects everyone else around you, Dan, why don't you expound upon this?
Oh, with pleasure. Okay. I normally like to be soft and gentle. BYI students and everybody else beware. This is the one time where I'm letting loose. We're cooking. Look, I also did this a lot. And because I didn't watch my ego at first, I've burnt some pretty big bridges. I won't name them, but there's one. I've worked with probably 4 or 5 cities now and 3 or 4 chambers. About 2 or 3 of them, I have burned. Never again permanent connections because of ego.
Yeah,
I did something that. So you need to understand that. Yes, you're taking courses. Yes, you may be investing in courses like we are too. You're getting mentors and other stuff too. but there is always someone worse than you and someone better than you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many courses you've taken at school, how many semesters you've been going, how many YouTube videos you watch. There's always someone better than you. You are not that.
This is a big, okay, so like we're in a smaller market, right? So our little corner of Southeast Idaho, like we're a little bit past, we go a little bit beyond that now, but
we're a little bit of a bubble.
We're in a bit of a bubble, right? And many of you will be too. But we're not immediately surrounded by just fabulous creators, right? I mean, we're not amazing ourselves, but like there's students in our area that go to college, and there are people who are in a big fish, little pond community. And so if you're in one of those communities, just be very, very, very careful, because even if you're better at what you do than others around you, if you lose the humility in the process, you won't be able to grow past that, and you will lose connections. Just as Dan did, I've lost some that way too. I get people now who message me. There's a few people on my list that I won't work with because they're just too full of themselves. Even if their work's like, I've got one person in particular he's really, really good at what he does. There's people who I've wanted to work with, I've worked with, or who have wanted to work with me, and their work is fabulous, but I won't take them because they're just not a pleasure to work with. They are full of themselves. They hold themselves in such high esteem. I don't enjoy being around them anymore.
Now, there is a line. Like, you do need to have confidence.
Absolutely.
But you can cross that red line really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the reasons why, and not everybody gets to do this. You guys may not have someone to be able to do this for you, but this is why I really look up to Tennyson, and we talk all the time. And I recognize he is my superior. And some people are like, he's going to...
I don't think so.
No, we're going to stop.
Different worlds, man. But.
Different world. Well, like, at least in the wedding world, you are my superior. You are better than me in weddings. I'm catching up, but I'm not quite where you are for some things. And so I always am asking Tennyson, hey, when I made this post or when I put it this way on Facebook, how was my ego? How did I sound? I have someone checking in on me. If you can have a family member or a friend or someone, preferably in the creative industry, that just sort of occasionally be like, hey man, you might want to dial your tone down on this a little bit. If not, that's okay. But you gotta understand that if this goes back to the value in relations, right? If this is how you can tell if you don't have someone to check on you, if your ego is maybe getting a little too big. If you are still doing free work and everything, and you're providing value and you're just not getting relationships, and you're not actually getting gigs, and maybe after some time, if it's still not coming around, it may be because your ego, because you're not a pleasure to work with.
And there's lots of reasons why that can happen, like why you're not getting gigs or why you're not getting connections, like maybe you're just shy.
Yeah.
But nothing kills the vibe in a room full of vendors or creators as someone who really thinks they're better than everyone else and shows it. Like if you think you're better than everyone else, great. Don't talk about it. Moral of the story with ego is be a pleasure to work with. Okay, whether you're a wedding videographer, photographer, designer, I don't care. Be nice. Be a pleasure. Smile. Don't assume you're the smartest in the room. Even if that's true, no one else wants to know that. So just be a pleasure. Yeah, seriously, guys, thanks for being here. We're so excited to be with you guys, and we're gonna put out episodes every week if we can, at least every other week. It's going to be based on the stuff that you talk to us about, right? We've got a few things planned that we definitely want to talk about, but if there's something that you guys need to know, put it in the chat. Send us an email. I mean, we'll drop our email, but like seriously,
there are no wrong answers.
There's no wrong answers. If we're not going to cover it, like maybe we'll be able to send you an email back and just say, hey, here's our thoughts on that. But we have a fun surprise. We're not going to wait a whole week to put out another episode. We're going to come back to you tomorrow with another episode. I think you're going to like what we have to talk about. It kind of ties into today, but it's going to help you guys a ton.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.
See ya!